Now the Spirit of the Lord is the one that speaks through me. Before my mother's womb, he ordained and knew me, ransomed me, and placed his words upon my tongue. Few are chosen, rest assured that I am one, an ambassador for Christ, his beloved son. And by his word, let souls be one. So welcome everyone to this listening party. Sit back and let your souls be hearty. Celebrate with me the gift that God has imparted. And what better way to get this party started than to give him the stage, because he knows where your heart is. Holy Spirit, you are welcome in this place. Give me the boldness to look upon each face and speak every word that you've given me to say. With no fear I speak truth, I won't deviate, and I'm confident that all will go great. So let your presence saturate this place. I breathe in your spirit, I intake a river full of life, water in every dry place. As I flow to the notes that heaven navigates, let it bless every listener and free them today. Let the truth of your word draw souls to be saved. Let the comforter comfort hearts today, and let the light of your word show them the way. Every time I write, I tell his story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. He opens up to me and shows me his glory. He gives me the strength to keep on soaring, and when I open up my mouth, for him I'm roaring. And the Spirit of the Lord goes before me, to the captive set free, that's reassuring. Over the years he strengthened my inner core, and every day I wake up just seeking him more. Am I ready for this? In my spirit I'm sure I am in Christ, and my Father I adore. He redeemed me from destruction, I am his ambassador. As the world turns and open up the door, I step in with purpose to win souls for the Lord. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell the story as I bask in the truth of his word before me.
Hey, gang. Welcome to Time to Bomb Sports Talk, the fastest growing show in the world. It's Monday, May 11th, and this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. If you don't think it's a great day, just try missing one. And we, LOVE, love sports and the Word of God on the Tom and Bomb Show. Yes, we are live. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Our Facebook channel is Tom the Bomb Sports Talk. You can catch all the shows there. You can also connect with us by email at info@tomthebombsports.com. That's info@tomthebombsports.com. And of course, you can always visit our website at www.tomthebombsports.com. See how we like try to make that the same? Yep. Hey, gang, we'd like to personally thank you guys for your prayers and your support to contribute to the show and our ministry. We sincerely thank you for that. With that, we appreciate your patronage, and you can bless us to keep creating compelling content and spreading the word of God, because you know that is our real job, right? You know that, right? Okay. Our Cash App is hashtag $ Tom the Bomb Sports Talk. Again, that's $ Tom the Bomb Sports Talk. We sincerely thank you, and may God bless you 100-fold return on the seed you sow into our ministry at the Tom the Bomb Show. As usual, we want to start off by thanking God for all the wonderful things He's already done for us and the new things. We're excited about those new things, Felix and Troy, that's happening for us in 2026. And our theme for 2026 is still, it's the year of discovery grace for beyond in 2026 to infinity and beyond. So so that we can be transformed to a level that none of us has walked in before. And 2026 can truly be the best years of our lives. Our foundational scripture for 2026, look, you got to have a word. You got to get a word. Our foundational scripture for 2026 is found in 2 Peter 3:18. And this is from the Good News Translation Bible. And it says, but continue to grow in grace and knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. To him be the glory now and forever. If you guys caught our grace devotional on Saturday, we one of your homework assignment was that you have to identify yourself with Jesus. Because whomever you identify yourself with, that's who you're going to partake in that. So we want to be able to identify. And then we also talked about taking Caleb's perspective. Now, to get more in detail, you got to get to the Grace devotionals for that. Because right now, this is the sports show, okay? Uh, hey, gang, I'm pleased to announce our Community Hope Center at VCCI, Victory Christian Church International. We've started our grocery distribution program. Yeah, and we're feeding 50 families in designated zip codes on the third Saturday of each month at 11 a.m. Eastern. Our location is at 7-7 Metropolitan Court, and that's in Gaithersburg, Maryland. 20878 is the zip. And it's open to all the residents of the following zip codes: 20877, of course, 20878, 20879, 20855, and 20882, and anyone that lives in Montgomery Village Avenue. And it's on a first come, first served basis while supplies last. You can scan the QR code to register, or you can also register on site. That is available. But all participants must complete a registration form. Please, 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 please. Our goal is to work up to 100 families. So be in agreement with us to get to this goal, okay? We want to be a blessing to the community that we serve. Our beloved late pastors used to always say that if a church leaves a community and the community doesn't miss the church, then that means the church was never supposed to be there. Okay. And if we leave our community, oh Jesus, we're not leaving our community. Hey gang, no trivia or poll question to say today. So let's kick it. Let's start off with the 2026 NBA draft lottery. Troy, we talking about draft lottery. Perhaps the most anticipated NBA draft lottery in history is officially in the books. And the perennial losers, unfortunately, in every adversarial competition, there must be a loser. And the perennial losers, the Washington Wizards finally turned the losing, or should I say, the tanking, finally won. They finally won the number one overall draft pick in the 2026 NBA draft. I know you ain't liking this, Felix. I know. I can hear you thinking. I could smell your brain, Felix. The Wizards get the number one draft choice, followed by the Utah Jazz, who got the number two pick, and the Memphis Grizzlies at the number three spot, followed by the Chicago Bulls at number four. The 2026 lottery was enormously consequential for a number of reasons. Okay, the draft class itself is considered one of the deepest in NBA history. Four players are considered star level talents. Talented BYU forwards AJ DeBonsa, Kansas shooting guard Darian Peterson. It was Peterson, sir. Duke's forward Cameron Boozer, and North Carolina's forward Caleb Wilson. Don't you just love saying that? It just brings back the MJ, don't it? I know, I like it, I like it. But yeah, while the draft is loaded with more guard prospects, uh, those four players were the ones widely considered to be at stake on Sunday. And now even we don't know the order in which they're going to be selected, but we have an idea of the four teams likely to get them. More importantly, this is the last draft class expected to be heavily impacted by tanking. Okay, lottery reform is coming. It's expected to pass later this month, and the proposed system would punish the three worst teams in the NBA while flattening the odds for the other non-playoff teams. Moving forward, it's going to be more random than ever. So the Wizards ain't what the Wizards did this year ain't gonna be able to do, but it finally paid off for them. Okay, Felix, let's talk about the winners. I know we don't often use these two-term names in the same sentence. The winners, the Washington Wizards, for the first time since 2010, when they selected John Wall out of Kentucky, the Wizards shamefully became the first team in NBA history to lose 64 or more games in 3 consecutive seasons. And the lottery gods hadn't exactly smiled on the Wizards during this 3-year dive. They landed the number 2 overall pick in the week 2024 draft. That got them Alex Starr, and he's a good player, but hardly a franchise changer. They needed that luck a year ago. Instead, they failed the maximum 4 spots possible and ended up picking 6 when their record should have had them picking no less than the number 2 spot lottery position. Well, finally, they get the number 1 pick. And with a real stud at the top of the draft that's deep, okay? They now have access to a player that could potentially be the franchise player that can rebuild this broken organization. Dabonsa teamed with Trey Young and the Glass Man, Anthony Davis. Uh, but they but but they need that true NBA franchise player, and I think they just got one. And the way the new system will be set up from here on out, it will help the Wizards continue to build around him. Since the odds changed in 2019, now the worst team had never won uh, the number 1 overall pick. Now in the final year of this format, they finally changed with the worst team. The Wizards winning the number 1 pick. The draft finally strengthened the worst team. So I think the first question to ask is, will the Wizards trade Anthony Davis? So let me, before we get in this, Felix and Troy, let me give you this. AD is fast becoming known as Lucky Charms. Okay. In 2019, Davis tried to force a trade from the Pelicans to the Lakers, and New Orleans held on to him past the trade deadline. And then New Orleans won the number 1 pick. So in 2025, the LA Fakers got smart and they traded Davis to the Mavericks, who then proceeded to win the number 1 pick. Lucky Charms working out here. Now in 2026, the Mavericks traded Anthony Davis to the Washington Wizards, who we now know have the number 1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. So for the record, Anthony Davis doesn't want to be a Washington Wizard. I'd trade him faster than it takes a laxative to go to work if I was in the Washington organization. Anthony Davis doesn't want to be in Washington. And I really don't blame him for that because I think the Wizards are clearly one of the worst run organizations in professional sports. And Davis, in interviews, have repeatedly referred to the Wizards as they rather than we in his public comments. He's 33 years old and he wants to contend for a title right away. And even with the top pick, I don't think that's not the Wizards next season. Anthony Davis is eligible for a contract extension that he'll probably sign, but I don't think the Wizards will give it to him. Felix, what's your take? First of all, Troy Felix, should the Wizards trade Anthony Davis, and and talk to us about the number 1 pick? Let's go with you first, Felix. I know the Wizards are close to your heart.
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because that could create a dream scenario. Now, perhaps I'm getting too greedy. We already have the number 1 pick. This is the closest I've gotten as a Wizards fan in his 20s, the closest I've gotten to my team being in a championship.
Mhm.
But I would say that what the Wizards can do, if they could possibly trade Anthony Davis and try to get another first round pick. And here's the thing, I had my eye on another player. We all want AJ DeBonsta, highest, scoring player in this year's draft. But there's another player no one's really talking about. Darius Acuff, 44% from beyond the arc. Now I know what we're thinking. We already have enough shooters. We already have that shooter archetype in Beal. And in years past, you want to go to arenas. But here's the thing, if you can get 2, now again, I know this is a bit of a reach here, but if the Wizards can somehow find a way to get this draft pick, and the thing about a cup, he's expected to be a lower first round draft pick, and I'm looking at his 3-point shot percentage. I'm wondering why, because he's nigh automatic. 44% is very high.
Mhm.
And if that develops over time, you have a very dangerous player and a Devonts at the other end of it. So I do agree. You're not only talking about someone whose durability is in question when you talk about Anthony Davis, solid player, but durability in question. And also, if his heart's not here, that's really the biggest red flag. Like, you can kind of work through injuries. It's not recommended, but you can work through that. If a person's heart's not there, they're not going to produce. That's never going to yield a positive outcome. So I would say this. in that case, yeah, I'd say absolutely trade Anthony Davis, get a mutual benefit, and maybe he's going to be the last piece for another team in the first round, and we just go from there.
Mhm. Troy, I think the Wizards' plan when they brought in Anthony Davis, Troy, was they really brought him in as an insurance policy because the Wizards have been in this position before. Like I said last year, at the very worst, they should have had the number 2 pick, and they fell all the way to the number 6 pick. So bringing AD in was kind of like insurance. Like, what happens if we fall in the draft and we get the number 6 or 7 pick? Then we can still throw Trey Young and Anthony Davis out there and put a decent team on the floor. Troy, what's your thoughts? Should the Wizards hold on to AD, get rid of AD, and what do you think of them finally getting the number 1 pick, Troy?
Well, finally getting the number one overall pick to go backward. I think it's good for the city to have a big name in as the number one overall pick. So, of course, AJ being that guy is definitely going to drive revenue up in regards to getting people to want to come to watch the Wizards play at their arena. Now, in regards to Anthony Davis, I think they should hold on to him. As much as I do like Darius and Cuff, like we had talked, like Phoenix has talked about,
Mhm.
another point that he made. We got a lot of shooters. We got a lot of guard play. Well, I'm not a Washington fan, but I'm gonna represent Washington, right? When I look at Trey Johnson got a clip on him. He can stretch the floor from 30 plus feet, along with Trey Young. So bringing in Darius, I mean, he can fit in at some accord. But I think if you just keep AD at the 4, you let Alexander Starr practice and just learn and develop underneath him as much as possible. Then you bring in a guy like AJ who doesn't have to be the number one scoring option up front like LeBron did when he went to Cleveland.
Mhm.
This is going to make a scenario where it's kind of a win-win across the board. You got good guard play, you got an all-star perennial talent on the offensive end in Trey Young. You bring in a former defensive player of the year, Anthony Davis. I think this is a good opportunity for AJ to kind of like learn from them, be that guy, kind of like who Cooper Flag was, where yeah, of course he's the best prospect for Dallas, but he didn't have to be the number one guy when Kyrie Irving and company was on the court. So, that's how I look at it.
Felix, Dr. Lauren has a great question. She says, if you trade AD, where should he go? And then my question is, who would want him? Okay, and be willing to give up that number 1, Felix.
Again, that's a solid question, but the thing is, you're not trading to a team that's going to have a high number one or a high first round draft pick. You're trading to a team that's already established here, because a team that's already established, a team that's possibly already qualified for playoffs.
Mhm.
Maybe you already have the star power, but you're supplementing that. You're not looking for a guy who's going to make Anthony Davis the headliner. In all honesty, I mean this as respectfully as possible. NBA teams aren't really looking to do that. So I would say you're looking to a team, I'd say a lower playoff seed or a higher seed team that didn't make the playoffs. So again, I was speaking, and that was actually a very valid question. So I was saying more so you would trade to a team that isn't really expected to get someone who's going to be a franchise changer, but you can get a confirmed NBA talent. Then you can go pick for that, player no one's looking at right now, Darius Akuff, 44% from beyond the arc, and go from there.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll come back to the Wizards. Let's get. We're going to talk winners. We're going to talk losers. Let's talk about the losers. One of the losers in this draft, the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets. They gambled and bet against themselves in 2024 offseason when they traded a handful of future picks to acquire Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Uh, now they look like they're up the creek with a paddle. Troy, what's your thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets?
So, considering that this is my team, one thing I'll say about Brooklyn is that it's been a lot of strikeouts from them trying to go get older guys to then come in and then be that, change and force to have them relevant in New York. I think their best opportunity was with KD when his foot was on the line against Milwaukee. I think that changes the whole aspect of how that organization is looked at if he gets an inch behind the line a few years ago. But one thing I'll say is that they're actually in a not really a bad spot. They got rid of Cam. Oh darn, I can't think of
Cam,
his name.
Cam,
But anyway,
Cam. Yeah, I can't think of his name too. I see him light
but
skinned kid.
you know what I'm talking
I know who you're
about.
talking about.
So
Cam.
you
So,
know,
yeah.
it, high clip can shoot 45% from the field. He's willing to take tough shots. Willing to be that guy in regards to being a scorer. Being at the fifth, sixth pick, this puts you in the opportunity to get Keaton Wagner or Darius Cuff if they slip, right? Because a lot of mocks have Caleb Wilson and Cameron Boozer going behind AJ along with Darren Patterson. So I think they're in a position of whoever slips, they'll be okay.
Felix, what's your thought on the Brooklyn Nets?
I would say that was an excellent trade 8 years ago. I mean,
You're funny, Felix. I was loving my weight 8 years ago. We are talking about 8 years ago, Felix.
right. I mean,
is, is, is that all you got to say for the Brooklyn Nets, Felix?
practically, I poor management. I think we've already said all there is to be said. I mean, Kevin Durant, solid player, future Hall of Famer. Kyrie Irving, one of the best players of his generation. But at the same time, they're not going to produce the same numbers that they did once upon a time. And trading away the future of the team for players who, quite honestly, they might not be in the league after a couple of years because
Yeah.
this is a very, Kevin Durant's already been struggling with injuries as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie Irving's been in the league for, if I'm not mistaken, well over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very bad investment made by the Nets. And again, for two players who aren't going to move the needle, you're not saying like trading. It's not like say you're trading for LeBron James or you're trading for Stephen Curry. That'd be question. I mean, that's not something that their players have been in the league, yes, but that makes more sense. But I'd say we pretty much covered based on why this is a bad call by the Nets.
Okay, let's move on to the next winners. Now, the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz have made out like fat cats, man. I mean, Washington is thrilled with getting the number one pick overall, but the winner of this draft is the Utah Jazz, man. After blowing up a playoff team, after blowing up a playoff team with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, but now the Jazz have an embarrassment of riches with Jaron Jackson Jr., Laurie Markkanen, Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and Ace Bailey. Now you add the number 2 overall pick, who probably, as good as these top 4 are, this number 2 pick probably won't even start for the Utah Jazz. But that's a great problem to have. That's like, I got too much money. What am I gonna do with it? Yeah, that's the problem that we want. I'm too good looking. These are the problems that we want. You know what I'm saying? So whoever they take at number 2, if he develops quickly, this Jazz team could challenge OKC in the West. They're definitely playoff ready right now. And Danny Ainge is masterful in running an NBA franchise, learning under the great Hall of Famer Red Auerbach. This is a serious, serious case of the rich getting richer. The Jazz may even consider moving up to the number 1 spot. Now, listen to this, Felix. They may even consider moving up to the number 1 spot because the owner of the Jazz is in love with DeBonsa because it's that BYU thing, in that area. So with a trade with the Wizards for DeBonsa. Now, I think the Wizards should at least listen, especially if they really don't want to take DeBonsa at the number 1 spot. If they like Boozer, for example, or if they like Peterson, for example, then let the Jazz have DeBonsa at the number 1 pick. Pick up at the draft and pick up some capital for the future. Troy, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that sound good.
Oh, you so
But you
funny.
don't pass up. You don't pass up on AJ. You don't pass up on a small forward that's 6'9", 6'10", that can, play inside out. It's kind of hard to pass that up, right? But I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like you said, I didn't even think about the fact that him being a BYU guy and having a Utah size, like Utah would definitely have to give up capital to do so, like big time capital. because even though it's one pick, this is the difference between potentially having the next superstar or having a guy that can just be like, yeah, he's good, but he's not, at that level. I respect the Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer's a dog, right? But I look at it as, you can't pass up on AJ.
Well, Troy, but and I agree. First, I agree with you. But listen, Troy, what if the Wizards, and you know this ain't beyond the Wizards' brass to think like this. We know that's the truth. What if they don't want Devonsa at number one? Then dropping back to number two and then getting draft capital for that number one pick because the owner in Utah loved Devonsa. So if he isn't their number one guy, and I don't know how he's not their number one guy, okay, but it kind of makes sense. What do you think, Troy?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you, but again, when you get the number one pick, you don't pass up on a guy like John Wall, right? When Chicago got the number one pick, you don't pass up on a guy like Derrick Rose. When Cleveland got the number one pick, you don't pass up on a guy like LeBron James or Kyrie Irving. You get what I'm saying?
I
So
get what you said.
it's one of them things where it's like, yeah, okay, like we can make this work in a sense, but is this going to make my team, 9-8 seed, or am I potentially going to have a chance to be a 5-6 seed? Starting up early. So that's how I'm thinking of it.
Felix, I got Utah as the big winner in this draft because they're playoff ready right now without anybody in this draft. And now they're sitting in the number two spot. What's your take on this? And what's your thoughts of the Wizards maybe dropping back a spot? What's your thought on it, Felix? Did we lose Felix?
He's probably on mute.
Okay.
I apologize for that. Had a bit of a tech issue there. So what I wanted to say was, yeah, I'd say for the Utah Jazz, they're in a very good position right there. I don't think the Wizards, again, if they're doing any sort of trade, don't do it with a high picking team like Utah. But I would definitely, on another point, say that they shouldn't give up on the Bond stuff, and it's for two reasons. One, he's not just a top scorer, but also he plays a very niche role in today's NBA. Big man. The Wizards haven't had a proper guy in the big man role for the better part of 10 years. And on top of that, again, in a a jump shot heavy league, having that is an X factor. So of course you already have Alex Sarr, who's a good paint defenseman, but you don't really have that solid paint offensive player. We kind of thought that's what we would have had in Will Riley. And again, he's a solid player, but DeBonsta's on a completely different level. You get him, and if possible, again, I'm getting really greedy here because we already have, the potential DeBonsta pick. But if they can also get that other shooter, Darius Acuff, and again, he's expected to be picked low in the draft, the Wizards could really make a drastic turnabout next year.
We're in the DMV here, and we're all seriously, Felix, Troy, Tom the Bomb, we're all really, really rooting for the Wizards because people don't know this outside of DMV, but Washington is a basketball powerhouse area. It really is, and they have been starving for a winner. So we're all rooting for the Wizards, but Felix, and I'm only saying in the back of my mind, I'm just trying to figure out how are they going to blow this? Because everything they've done for the last
No, I
30
agree.
years, they've just messed it up when it was there. I can go back to when they had Chris Webber and what's the other key number? Howard. They had Howard. Uh, they
Jawan Howard.
they had Jawan Howard. And what was the center that played for Detroit that came out of North Carolina? They got all the
Ethan Thomas?
no, they got all the technical fouls all the time. He played it.
Rasheed Wallace.
Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace was on that team, and as a matter of fact, I think that's the last time they made the playoffs, and they just happened to come up. Their first round opponent was Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls. But and we know that the Bulls went on to win that championship that year, but Washington gave them a really tough time in that first round. As a matter of fact, I think they gave them the toughest time, and the Bulls rolled after that. So that team was there with a young Chris Webber, with a young Juwan Howard, with a young Rasheed Wallace. and I can't even remember what happened, but I know they messed it up. So we're all pulling for him, but I'm just in the back. I'm like, how are they going to blow this? Let's get to our next losers in this draft. Our next losers in this draft was the Sacramento Kings. The Kings have Washington Wizards kind of luck, okay? Falling all the way to number 7 in the draft order. The Kings have missed the playoffs 19 times in the last 20 years. That's Washington Wizards territory. And on top of that, they drafted Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. That's a Washington Wizards move right there. So with the new lottery system offering no lifelines for bad play in the future, the Kings could be in purgatory for a while. It's why it was so important for them to at least to secure a top 4 pick so they could get kind of like a lottery guy. Felix, what's your thoughts on the Sacramento Kings and their bad luck?
First off, the Wizards had way more playoff appearances than that if you want to turn it back 20 years. That's about at
Thank
least
you.
10 out of
Bro,
20.
we can't let that go. I'm glad you said something.
Gus say I hate officials, and that's not true. So go ahead, Felix. I'm sorry.
Right. So I would say that I agree 100%. The Kings, they're in a bad spot here. And I mean, it's pretty much cut and dry. If you're a team that's not doing too well, you don't have high draft picks, they can rely on free agency, maybe make some good trades. But again, if you don't have if you don't have players you can trade with, that's another roadblock. So, I mean, they can I would just say the Pistons would have been a good model for how to develop your team quickly over the course of a few years. But
Mhm.
that's the thing. They don't reward bad play with high draft picks anymore. They're not going to do that from this point onwards.
Mhm.
So to your point, the Kings might be in a bit of a bind here.
Troy, besides taking Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic, what's your thoughts on the Sacramento Kings?
Well, yeah, that was a bad pick. It's not gonna lie. But hey, man, look, I'm a believer in go back to what makes your team.
Quickly over the course of a few years, but
How do I put this? Hey,
Sorry.
I'm hearing
That's
echoes.
it. I'm sorry. That was me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You good? Again, I would say go back to your roots of what made you, actually watchable back in the early 2000s. Back when they had Mike Bibby, Doug Christie, Chris Webber, Vladi Divac, Peja, everybody on that starting five produced every single night in a way where they didn't have a specific role. You didn't know who was going
Mhm,
to be that number one scorer depending on how they played that night.
mhm.
And I think about the Hawks about like 8 to 10 years ago when they had Kyle Korver and Jeff Teague and Al Horford. And when I talk about in regards to them being a 60 plus win team, but not really having any guy as the main guy, you can still find ways to be relevant. So I would think, in regards to them, having Zach Levine and DeMar DeRozan, they got to find ways. Like I love Russell Westbrook still there. Just keep building guys that are like 5 or 6 years in. Don't worry about getting the number one guy. Just get a bunch of guys that can just come in and fill pieces. Because then that gives you a chance, even if injuries do happen, you still have some sort of depth. You still have some sort of experience across the board. And it gives you a chance to fight, at least in the West.
Okay, let's get to our next winners in the draft. The LA Clippers. Okay, after having the dubious distinction of trading SGA, Shea Gilgis Alexander, who I think is the MVP in the league. Man, can you believe they got rid of that guy? Look, they now have a lottery pick to team with Kawhi Leonard, who seems to keep defying Father Time along with LeBron James. Okay. Uh, Felix, what's your take on the LA Clippers and where they fell and what moving up to the number 5 spot? Felix.
So I'd say with the LA Clippers, they're a better team. I would say in their position, okay, they have talent there. Number 5 spot isn't bad at all. And again, it's pretty much the
Mhm.
same thing. If they want to do a rebuild, there's a whole process they can go through with trades, free agency, and I'd say they have more capital to do that with than the Kings. So I would say that they're in a position where, again, they might not be an elite team overnight, but they can. It's an easier path to a rebuild than say the Kings, or I can't even use the word rebuild because the Clippers are they're already a good team as it is.
Mhm. Yep. Troy, what's your thoughts on the Clips?
Well, they better hope that Cameron Boozer or Caleb Wilson falls to the fifth pick. If that happens, they'll be in a good spot. I don't think they need guard play.
Mhm.
And, if Caleb Wilson and Cameron Boozer all go 3-4, then it's like, okay, Keaton Wagler, guy out of Illinois that we've been talking about since the tournament, is he too young for this spotlight? Is he going to get the opportunity? Darius Cuff again. It's like it puts you in a position where, all right, I already got Darius Garland. I already got Bradley Bill. I already have Chris Dunn. Of course, yeah, I can add more guard play, but you need perennial guys that are going to get rebounds, set screens, do all the Draymond Green stuff,
Mhm.
right? Do all the stuff that you don't see on the box score per se, but you can see how they're clearly making an impact on the game. That's where I feel like they need hope at.
Okay. Real quick poll. Real quick poll. I want to ask both of you guys real quick. First of all, Troy, Boozer or Caleb Williams, they're not going to be there at 5. Both of those guys will be gone by then. But if we get to 5 and 6, and I want both of you guys real quick answer on this. If a Cuff is available and Keegan Wagler available, Felix, who are you taking, a Cuff or Keegan Wagler?
Cuff.
Okay. Tell me why real quick.
Because the thing is, again, when we're comparing to the higher draft picks, you're talking about guys who have higher scoring averages. When you get a little lower, they fit into the niche of 3-point shooting or specific niches. Here's the thing: with the Cup, he has a 44% shooting percentage. So I don't want to sound melodramatic here, but that's the closest thing you have to like the Curry archetype. I'm not saying he's Curry at
Mhm.
all,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to say that when you have a guy with a shooting percentage that high, you don't ignore that. That's something you can develop over time versus, again, a good player. But again, once you start getting that low in the draft, we're talking about niche players at that point.
Troy, a Cuff or Keegan Wagler?
Yeah, tough. Felix makes a great point. From how much he shoots from the 3-point line, the fact that he still shoots over 40%, that stretches the floor out. So when you got a guy that can get to the rim, but is mainly a guy that can shoot, kind of like a Damian Lillard archetype, uh, good spot.
Mhm. Hey, we're all in agreement. I think it's a Cuff too. I think he's got the NBA body already more so than Keegan Wagler. Keegan Wagler is definitely going to have to bulk up as he steps into the NBA. But I love them both. But I'm in agreement with you guys. Let's get to the next loser. The Indiana Pacers. Man, the Pacers were unbelievable last year in the championship game, man. And I guess that's what happens. You have success and you lose guys. But Indiana, after losing Miles Turner, and star Tyrese Halliburton out for the Patriots with injuries, they had a 52.1% chance of getting in the top 4 picks. They had a 48% chance of getting the number 5 or number 6 pick after trading for Zubac. They gambled and they rolled the dice. And as Nicolas Cage would say, "You got snake eyes, Kevin." As GM Kevin Pritchard apologized to his fans, he said, "I own taking this risk." He went on to say they needed a center to compete in the East, so they traded for Ivaka Zubac. The move the move busted, but Zubac is a good player, and he's going to help the Pacers down the road. Troy, what's your take on the Indiana Pacers in this draft?
They'll be all right. Them not really having any capital, being able to draft, really in the first round. I look at it as you're getting Tyrese Halliburton back healthy next year. Coming from that injury that he had in the NBA Finals 2 years ago, it was hard to watch. But again, time has passed. He's recovered, and I think him with Pascal Siakam, with all the guys that they have that just play key roles like Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Neesmith, they're deep, man. So they'll be all right.
Felix, what's your thoughts on Indiana? They gambled and lost.
Right. I would say Indiana, like Troy said, is best. They'll be okay. They were right there. I mean, with Indiana's case, it's really just injury, recovery from injury, and there are other ways around the draft. I mean, I never was a person that believed in the been putting all the eggs into the draft bucket. So I definitely say, yeah, if they want to sharpen up, there's always free agency, always to trade. I always make a point of emphasis with that. But even at that, it's really a matter of time for Halliburton to heal up, and they're going to be back to where they left off.
I don't think they're as big a losers as all the experts are making it out to be because I like the fact that they went for it. I like the fact that they didn't sit on their can. They didn't sit on their laurels. They didn't say, well, we were in the finals last year. I like the fact that they went for it. And, losing Miles Turner, they had to go get a big. So Zubac was insurance, but, they had good odds. They just roll the dice, and that's why we say on the Tom the Bomb Show, don't bet, don't gamble, because it ended up costing them here. But I agree with both of you guys. I think they're going to be okay. Let's get to the next winners in the draft, and that would be the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, unlike a lot of teams, the Memphis Grizzlies do a good job of drafting and developing players. Landing this lottery pick will make it easier to trade Ja Morant, who's very, very popular in Memphis, okay? The most popular player. They'll have someone new to build around the lottery. The lottery ball finally delivered hope for Memphis. Felix, what's your take on the Memphis Grizzlies and their spot?
Right. I'd say with the Memphis Grizzlies, again, this is a team that can make some acquisitions. John Morant, all he's got to do is just keep doing what he's doing. He's been one of the best players in the NBA, the best players in the NBA at the time he first came on the spot. It's just a matter of staying on the court, cutting out extra drama, cutting out extra distractions. I want to keep it as positive as possible, just cutting out the distractions, keeping his momentum flowing. And again, the Grizzlies building a team around him because he's a good player and he fits a role that you don't see a lot of. I liked when I saw John Morant, I was so excited. I'm seeing a new player who's attacking the rim,
Must be
shooting in the
TV.
paint.
Hmm.
I'm thinking this is the NBA I grew up watching. Then this is coming back with a megastar. So I'm hoping that the Grizzlies, no, excuse me, Grizzlies. I don't know why I'm still thinking about the Pacers. If they can put it together, they're going to be in good standing.
Felix, at one point before Wemby, before Anthony Edwards, I thought this guy was going to be the face of the NBA because he was must see TV and so exciting. But he kind of did all that to himself. Troy, what's your take on the Memphis Grizzlies?
He did it to himself, but he's still a baller.
Hmm.
Just give him a couple more stints to just get his, feet wet in regards to changing his aspect in life, and he'll be all right. But one thing I'll say about the Grizzlies, they need somebody to replace Jaren Jackson badly. Them losing Jaren Jackson, via trade, I'm looking at it as, getting the forward to replace like his versatility, someone that's a great defender but can shoot the ball, sets great screens, has great IQ. I think Cameron Boozer is the perfect pick for Memphis here.
Okay.
Someone that, even being slightly undersized, again, like you talked about, they have a good job drafting. I think of not necessarily Zach Randolph, but how Zach Randolph had an impact on Memphis. I think Cameron Boozer can do the same thing.
I like that, Troy. I think he might be the perfect guy for Memphis. I really do like that pick. All right, guys. Look, let me get you guys back both on your toes because I don't want y'all slacking on me. Let me get y'all on your toes. Let's get to this breaking news first. The NFL and girls rule, and boys drool. The first NFL Sunday night game of the season has been announced for September 13th, and that's a day before your birthday, Troy. Troy, we should all get together and do a party in the man cave that night. Felix, you down for that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The Dallas Cowboys will be in the Meadowlands against an improved New York Giants team led by John Harbaugh. The rest of the NFL schedule will be out by Thursday of this week. But John Harbaugh is going to take the Giants back to old school football, protecting the QB and running the football. So Dallas's new defensive upgrades, they're going to be tested in week 1 to see if they can stop the run and stop giving up 30 points a game. Troy, what's your thoughts on this opening game with the Giants and the Cowboys?
Typical. The Giants always play the Cowboys, and it seems like in the first week. But one thing I'll say is that you're going to see two young teams and really go at it. I think the Giants are much better than what people give them credit for. I think healthy. People forget about Malik Neighbors, but I think Cam Scatterboo is probably the most must-see TV in regards to watching a running back play that you're going to find in the NFL. Doesn't make him the best running back, but in regards to just excitement, you put him behind, in my opinion, the best left tackle in the draft. Then you got that defense with Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Arvell Reese. They're deep, man.
He amazes me how he does that with no notes. It absolutely blows me away. Felix, what's your thoughts on this Dallas and Giants game, man?
Okay, so I kind of noticed a pattern. Troy said it. They seem to always put the Cowboys and the Giants week one. I remember it was every single year. It started with the year the Cowboys opened up their stadium. I remember in the late 2000s or early 2010s. But yeah, I think that's going to be a very closely contested game. People forget the Cowboys, one of the best offenses in the NFL. And the Giants, really, the fact of the matter is their offensive game was missing Malik Neighbors. He's going to be back there. That game might be game of the week for week one in the NFL. I'm expecting an absolute shoot. Well, I would say an absolute shootout between both teams, with the Giants' defense completely revamped. I mean, I don't know. And this sounds odd with me saying this. The Cowboys might have a pretty nasty start to the season.
Hmm. Well, there's no way that the Giants could have thought that Arvell Reese was going to fall into their lap. But I was really liking what they did in the draft, getting Arvell Reese, and then that next, I can't think off the top of my head. Troy, who did they get after Arvell Reese, the Giants?
Francis, they got Francis with the number
That,
10
that, that,
pick.
that left tackle, right,
Francis
right, right.
Mayogo.
Right, the guy who
Mhm.
said he was going to take care of the QB. Yeah, yeah, man, I like what they did, and I think John Harbaugh is going to bring stability to the Giants, Felix, that they haven't had since what's the last coach that took them to the Super Bowl that was kind of had that military
Tom
style?
Coughlin.
Tom
Yeah,
Coughlin.
right. I think he's going to bring stability back to the Giants and give them that stability at the head coaching job. Man, listen, man, especially in the NFL, especially with millionaires and rich guys, uh, man, your coach can't be your friend. When every time I hear somebody say, "Well, he's a player's coach," and I always think, "Well, he's not winning." Man, you gotta have a little fear in your coach, man. You gotta have Bill Parcells or Jimmy Johnson or somebody. You got to be on your toes and walk on eggshells around. So I think John Harbaugh and they say John Harbaugh is a player's coach, but I think he'll get them guys back where they need to be. So that's our first game of the season. It's exciting. Football season. Lawrence says football season never ends. It doesn't. It just goes on, and we ignore. We talk about other stuff until it comes back. Okay, let's get to the NBA playoffs. Play, yeah. We have to start with the broom, and that the New York Knicks swept the Philadelphia 76ers. The Knicks tied an NBA record, making 18 3-pointers in the first half and set a franchise record with winning 7 playoff games in a row as they routed the 76ers 144 to 113. They lost by 30, and this game wasn't even close. But it was worse than what it sounded. It was worse than 30. The Knicks are on a serious heater with a 194-point differential. It's the best 10-game span in NBA playoff history. Now think about that. You had the Bulls, you had the Golden State Warriors, you had the Celtics of every year for like 10 years, and the New York Knicks on the best 10-game span in NBA history. This Knicks team can win the NBA championship this year. And I think the key for the Knicks, uh, which Dr. Lauren pointed out to me that I was so impressed that she said this. So Felix, you and Troy rubbing off on Dr. Lauren. I think the key for the Knicks is how they're using Carl Anthony Towns, the Big Cat, as a facilitator. Now, people don't know that Towns wears number 32 because he patterned his game after Magic Johnson. He just happens to be 7 feet. And credit Jalen Brunson for playing off the ball, and to allow Towns more room to handle the rock. It's like the Knicks are now using Towns the way the Golden State Warriors use Draymond Green to facilitate their offense, and also how the Denver Nuggets use the Joker at the top of the key. Uh, Deuce McBride hit 7 of the Knicks' 25 made 3-pointers as he scored 25 points. Jalen Brunson added 22 in less than 4 quarters played, while Josh Hart and Carl Anthony Towns each scored 17 each, and Felix, Troy, and Tom the Bomb scored 12 points against the weak defensive effort put up by the 76ers. The Knicks now have to advance to the East Finals for the second straight season and will play the winner of the Cleveland Detroit series, where the Pistons lead the series 2-1. I like what Wendy says. He says the Knicks are on a generational heater, running their offense to its maximum potential right now. The Knicks are so efficient right now that no one even noticed that OG Ananobi hasn't even played in the last 2 games. Nobody's even noticed that. The Knicks have earned the time off to rest up for this next series. Felix, what's your thoughts on this one? And congratulations on the 12 points you scored in the playoff game, Felix.
Well, first off, it goes back to what I said about the 76ers. I'm really not trying to knock the team, but they just had no business there. They beat an injured Boston team that could have beaten them if they were playing sound fundamental basketball within the last 2 minutes of that game. So that's something that stuck with me there. I gave the 76ers no chance in this series. Secondly, the New York Knicks, they've been on an absolute heater these last couple of years. And also, again, this is a team that was building it up before they got Carl Anthony Towns. And when I saw them acquire him, I'm backtracking a little bit here. In the fall of 2024, I knew this is where the Knicks were going. Eastern Conference Championship. And in all reality, I'm from this point onwards, I'm not sure if there's a team in the East that could stop them. I mean, I know that you have the two strong teams in Cleveland and
Detroit.
their opponent, Detroit Pistons.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think this Knicks team, they've impressed me more than any other team, surviving team in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference right now.
Troy, what do you think of how the Knicks are now using the big cat? Uh, what I love about this is almost like a great football move, because they've gotten into the playoffs and now they're doing something. They're running an offense that they haven't run all year long, and it's like nobody can adjust to it. Troy, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you just said it for me, basically. Ultimately, when you don't, here's the thing: Jalen Brunson shot 10 threes in this game. Jalen Brunson don't usually shoot more than 2 or 3 a game, considering that he's always trying to get to his mid-range jumper, which
Mhm.
he shoots very efficiently. The fact that now they're showing the versatility that they have, it makes them hard to game plan for because you don't know what route they're going to go.
Mhm.
And in basketball, the best teams sometimes don't win, sometimes because of the matchups that are made up. Carl Anthony Towns is a matchup problem, but not only that, Josh Hart's one of their best
I
rebounders
love
at
Josh Hart.
6'5".
I love Josh Hart.
And
I
ever
think
since he
I
was at
think I think
Villanova,
I
he's
think
played
I'm sorry, Troy. I think he's the best rebounding guard in the NBA, Josh Hart.
without a doubt. Because all rebounding is understanding position and effort. If you can jump, that's a plus, right? But like you look at guys like Kevin Love, who dominated for years. Kevin Love will get 13, 14 rebounds a night just from understanding, okay, this is where he shot it from. This is the typical, release that he gives off. The ball spinning this way, I'm gonna make my move. Josh Hart does that very well for him. So my point is that across the board, they just have everything locked down. Mid range, they can get buckets at the rim. They got a go to guy at the point guard position, and they play pretty good defense. They're a tough out.
I know this is kind of subjective, guys, but I want you guys to ask this. Does, does anybody in NBA have a bigger heart than Jalen Brunson, Felix?
Where are you going with this?
I mean, just this guy just, man, he just impresses me every time I see him. And there's nothing about his game that I say, well, he needs to improve on this, or he needs to do better on this. He needs to, and the effort that he puts in every night. And then I never seen a guy get 25 and 30 points so quiet that you don't know he's doing what he's doing while he's cutting your throat. Uh, uh, I, he just plays with a lot of heart. Who do you, let me ask you this, Felix. Who in the NBA seems to have a bigger heart than Jalen Brunson?
Word it like that. That I mean, I really don't know what to tell you. And that's the perfect player. That's the kind of guy you want on your team.
Troy, what's your thoughts? Lauren says she says SGA has a
My
bit.
bad.
Lauren says she says
No,
SGA has just as big a heart.
I,
Troy,
well, nah. SGA is a smart. He knows how to get to the free throw line. But nah, I'm gonna say Ant Man.
Ant Man.
And here's the thing, he's very nonchalant in the media. Like he doesn't really show too much emotion, but Ant plays with a fire every single night in regards to like, look, I'm here to embarrass you. Like, forget me just going out the ball. I want to make this a point and effort. Like, you seen that movie, that basketball movie that Adam Sandler made, and they had Ant-Man as one of the main characters. He's
Uh-huh.
really that character in real life.
Uh-huh.
He was not acting in that movie. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Everything that you saw him portray in that movie, well, with the Adam Sandler that came out on Netflix a couple years ago, is how he is in real life. So that's who I would say has more heart. But again, Jalen Brunson's up there too.
He's a dog,
Yeah, to
man.
see that one.
He's a real dog, man. Look, let's real talk. Let's talk about the Sixers and the Celtics. What does it say about the Boston Celtics losing to Philly after being up 3-1? I mean, we know the Sixers got swept, but I don't know if the Knicks. I think the Knicks would beat the Celtics, but I don't think they would. So, what does it say about Boston losing to Philly after being up 3-1, Felix?
I don't even want to put this is going to be crazy because I literally and every single time we've brought up the 76ers or the Celtics in the last 2 weeks, the first thing I grilled was their coaching decisions and keep going and consistently going for the three. But the thing is, I don't even think I have anything to say about the Celtics or their coach because it just seems to be the zeitgeist of the NBA now. Every team does that. I mean, it would be almost unfair for me to really just go on the Celtics because every team, when in doubt, go for the point shooter. When the game's just starting, go for the jump shot. You know, when you're up, jump shot. When you're down, jump shot. I mean, yeah, I 100% want to blame coaching. And I actually would furthermore blame the injury. But at the same time, I mean, at the end of the day, I have to be honest. Someone has to break this pattern. These coaches, they have the volition to say, "I'm not going to do this. I'm going to pick something else to do. I'm going to pick another." In the entire glossary of basketball inside plays, from the top of my head, backdoor, ISO, pick and roll.
Mhm.
One of those three.
Mhm.
You could have used that. So, I mean, I'm sorry. Maybe you wanted me to give you a different answer because I feel like
No,
I've said
no.
this a lot, but it's just like, it's to a point where when you see something like that, I I really can't give you much else.
Mhm. That's great. You know, it's one of the reasons I like what Coach Brown for the Knicks have done because you have a real legitimate superstar in Jalen Brunson, and he comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to switch. We're going to do something different." And Jalen Brunson is open to that instead of like the Celtics live by the three, die by the three. Troy, what's your thoughts on that, Troy?
Uh, I'm gonna keep it real simple. This is how bad they miss Jason Tatum. This is how valuable Jason Tatum is to the Celtics. This is how good Jason Tatum is in regards to who he is in the NBA. Shout out to my homie Caleb. And we talk about this, night in and night out. Jason Tatum is much better than what people give him credit for. And, as good as Jalen Brown is, the moment Jason Tatum go down, they go down.
Mhm.
And I think back to game 7 a couple years ago when the first 2 minutes of the game, Jason Tatum rolls his ankle. And as he rolls his ankle, he can't perform or really run. So he's out for the rest of the game, lose that game. Right. So I look at it as, you know, injury is definitely my thing toward it. Coaching, it is what it is. You live by three, you're going to go out by the three. But ultimately, Jalen Brown, as good as he is, Jason Tatum is all that and then some.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Look, as good as the Spurs have been all season long, their inexperience seems to be showing up in the playoffs. Playoffs? Look, they say that styles make great fights. And the Spurs style matches up against the NBA reigning champion OKC Thunder better than any other team in the NBA, but not necessarily against the Minnesota Timberwolves, with superstar Anthony Ant-Man Edwards and the 7-footer defensive stopper Rudy Gobert at the center. Victor Wembanyama was ejected in the second quarter of the game and finished with 4 points and 4 rebounds and only played 12 minutes in the whole game for throwing an elbow to Nas Reed. Now, not that Nas Reed is a scrub, Troy, but that's the oldest proverbial trick. Let's antagonize your best player with our worst player and get them both thrown out of the game. This is some of the inexperience I'm talking about. Wimby, Wimby, you can't fall for the old banana in the tailpipe trick, man. You can't get ejected in that game. This move may have swung this whole series. If the Spurs don't put the T Wolves away quickly, they could easily find themselves at home after this series. Anthony Edwards scores 36 points in 40 minutes. And we all know that Ant-Man is good enough to carry this Timberwood team to the finals. As good as the Spurs are, where Wimby was missed the most was on the defensive end of the court. So Christmas came early for the Timberwolves in game 4. Look for Wimby and the Spurs to come back strong in game 5 in front of their home crowd. This Spurs team is ridiculously good and talented and deep. Troy, what's your take on this series so far?
You got two perennial heavyweights going at it. They match up well. Nobody can guard. Be out on the perimeter, but Rudy Gobert is doing the best he can to hold it down and still be a big man and get back to the paint when it's time to box out. In regards to Nas Reed, I'm gonna go back to what you said. Let's put a little bit of respect on his name, former sixth man of the year. Part of Jelly fam.
But they
Shout
set
out
him
to
up
the
though, Troy. They set Wimby up, man. They set him up.
I know, but it's like
Jelly
like
Fam is
Nas
a
Reed. I
throwback.
say Nas Reed, he's a dog. But anyway,
Look,
the
that's when
thing
I
I'll
used.
say
Hey,
is
look, I'm
that
sorry.
again,
I'm sorry, Troy. That's when I used to get put in the game. They say, "Go in there and hit him, Tommy."
that's it.
Go ahead, Troy. I'm sorry.
No, you good, man. Again, like I said, ultimately the Spurs, excuse me, ultimately the Spurs, they need Wemby, like you said, mainly on the defensive end, and then to be able to run a fast break as well. He's not a typical big where on the fast break he's just looking to get to the paint. Like he's willing to space the floor. He's willing to, be on the lob in regards to, alley oops. And he brings a different presence to how they just ultimately run the floor. This team is deep, but again, Timberwolves are tough too.
Felix, what was your take on this one and them baiting Wimby?
Yeah, I would say definitely when it comes to these games, I mean, you just have to know how to keep your composure. And you did say that experience plays a role. Over time, when you get used to the tension, you're going to know how to deal with it better. So I'd say Wemby, he made that mistake. It's not something I would hope it's not something that he repeats, especially not in a big game like this, because that's the X factor. That was a very close game. He only had 4 points up until that time. If you keep him in that game has a completely different result. And
No doubt. Christmas came early for the Timberwolves. They got Christmas in May. You know, they
yeah, I mean, it's a trick. It's similar to what's used in hockey. You'd have a guy on the team that you call your pest
all
that tries
sports,
to draw
Felix, all
fouls.
sports, not just hockey.
Yeah,
All sports, man. Go out there and talk about his mama. You know,
I mean, they in hockey they flat out admit what they're doing. I mean, it's so obvious though. That's why I'm saying that one.
that's why I was on the basketball team. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys.
Oh,
I know that role.
You know I don't believe that, right?
let's go out there and tackle him, Tommy. Because I can tackle. I knew how to tackle. Okay. let's get tonight. Let's get to tonight's game at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. The OKC Thunder look to close out Natwood Lakers like the Knicks did against the 76ers. All three games have followed a similar script. The Fakers defense does its job containing SGA, and their offense does enough to hang around for a half, and then the wheels fall off when the Fakers turnovers fueled the Thunder's run. The Lakers committed 17 turnovers, leading to 30 points for OKC on Saturday, while OKC just had 10 turnovers, which led to the Lakers scoring just 11 points off those turnovers. That disparity, Felix, combined with OKC's work on the offensive glass, gave the Thunder 13 more shots than the Lakers had in game three total. Will Nate Wood Lakers be able to string together a full 4 quarters tonight to avoid the consequences of their season coming to an end? If they don't win tonight, Felix, what's your take?
Can you repeat that?
No, I can't repeat all of that. What's your take on tonight's game, Felix, with the Lakers and OKC?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going with OKC. I mean, 100%. I mean, here's the thing. I was thinking again, if Luca was somehow healthy, this would be either a competitive series or it's in favor of the Lakers. But again, it's been very. I'd say some of the games have been close. Some of them have been competitive. People want to blame the referees, but overall, OKC is just a better team. I think this is just a repeat of what happened with the Denver series in 2023.
Troy, did you hear any of that I said?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, what's your take on it, Troy?
Well, again, the Lakers, they could play perfect and still not be able to, get over the hump in regards to how I've seen the series go. OKC is just too deep. They can run a 10-man rotation even in a close game,
Mhm,
and they won't miss a beat. They won't turn the ball over. They'll find a way to play team defense. They'll run the floor, and they can all shoot.
mhm,
So, you talk about that SGA trade with Paul George. They got so many draft picks out of that. They got guys that could easily go to another team right now, like the Bulls, the Wizards, the Nets, and be, role players and have bigger roles compared to where they're at now. And they're just, okay, I'm gonna play 10, 15 minutes a game and just, give them my all and not turn the ball over. Have a plus minus of over like 15. Like that's impressive. So yeah, they're too deep, man.
mhm. A couple of weeks ago on our poll question, we had, do you think that OKC Thunder will repeat as champions? And 52% of our viewers said yes, they would. But 48%, including Felix and Troy, y'all said y'all didn't think OKC was going to repeat. Now I like the way the Knicks are playing right now, but I don't care how good the Knicks are playing. OKC, the champ is the champ until you beat the champ. Period. Okay, you got to knock the champ out. You ain't gonna get no decision on the champ. So there it is. Let's get to our next game. In game three, James Harden finally showed up and delivered the clutch performance the Cavaliers needed desperately. The Pistons have been the better team in the clutch through the first two games, executing in the games late like veteran teams do, while outplaying the Cavaliers, who have a bevy of playoff experience. But with the score tied 104-104 with under 3 minutes remaining Saturday, the Cavs made the plays to win the game down the stretch, including 7 points in the final minute and 30 seconds from James Harden. Cleveland responded in a must win game three to keep hope alive, okay, of winning the series. Donovan Mitchell scored more than 30 points for the second straight game. With the difference, though, was Harden bounced back from a horrible game two. Harden and Mitchell combined to outscore the Pistons 10-5 over the last minute and a half of the game. Harden went 3 for 3 in that sequence. That's the clutch that they need. Uh, Game four is tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC, and the Cavs are still undefeated at home in the postseason. They'll need another all-around performance to even even this series up. They're going to need to rinse and repeat tonight, like they did in Game 3 performance. If they want to hold off a young, hungry Pistons team, the Pistons are battle tested from round one against the Orlando Magic. It taught the young Pistons urgency in the playoffs. They will not go away quietly. And despite trailing by 16 at the half, they came back to make a game of it down the stretch. Troy, what's your take on this game, Detroit and Cleveland?
One thing that I talked about like 2 weeks ago when we had, well, not 2 weeks ago, about oh yeah, like the last show that we had. In order for Cleveland to really have a chance in this series, they gotta just pick on, matchups that in their favor. And that's definitely Donovan Mitchell against Duncan Robinson. Um, he has to take 25 to 30 shots a game. He's going to get you at least 35 to 40 every single time he does that,
Mhm.
right? And when that happens, I don't care what's going on. If someone's in the zone, you do what you got to do. You get out the way, and then you just stay ready just in case the ball gets to you.
Mhm.
But you clear out and you let that man just take advantage of the scenario. And at worst, try to get to the rim against the free throw line. He does very good at the free throw line. They got to keep picking on Duncan Robinson if they have a chance.
Felix, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I would say this is a series. Again, Cleveland, they really need to come out and play their best basketball if they want to stay in this series. But overall, I would say, based on what I'm seeing, I'd say overall, Detroit, they're playing better basketball. I'd say Detroit, they definitely look like the better team here. But again, the Cleveland can really steal this series. They can still fight here, but at this point, they can't afford. I would say this: they need to basically repeat what they did this past weekend, repeat what they did Saturday,
Rinse and repeat.
and yeah,
Mhm.
and they can't allow Detroit to make it close again. Like because I think Detroit, if they're able to do it, they could take. They're going to take this game if it goes like that. This time around.
Okay, gang, look, we're going to take a real quick break before we come back and wrap this up with some NHL hockey, and Philip's going to get us caught up. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Window Nation is on the Morgan's home turf to huddle up about replacing their drafty old windows.
This free estimate is showing how easy it is to tackle the problem.
We can get any of these windows custom made.
Yes, you can get the quality and style you really want.
And at a more affordable price than they ever imagined.
Now that they've sealed the deal, they'll be saving money year-round.
We're really confident with Window Nation.
Get your free estimate today and get 60% off all windows plus no interest or payments for 24 months at getwindownation.com.
Sheltered by the Sea of Cortez, Danzante Bay is a pure and peaceful oasis, an uncrowded retreat where your options are as vast as your views. If you're seeking a vacation that defines luxury and the true relaxation, look no further than Villa del Palmar at the islands of Loreto. A splendor of true Mexican hospitality effortlessly blends with rich materials and satiable comforts to bring guests the ideal home away from home experience. With its quiet beaches, scenic vistas, rich history, and an astounding surrounding natural habitat, you'll feel as though you've been swept off to paradise. Not to be outdone, Reese Jones has crafted TPC Danzante Bay, a brilliant, multi-themed 18-hole golf course that runs over and through valleys, arroyos, dunes, and foothills. From every angle, striking images of the islands of Loreto and the surrounding mountain range take your breath away, while the challenging yet rewarding Baja Golf Course beckons you to return for more. It is an honor and my pleasure to welcome you to the world's most beautiful sunset and so much more.
And we're back. Hey, with the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs in full swing, the competition has been narrowed down to the 6 teams looking to punch their tickets to the conference finals. In the Eastern Conference, the Carolina Hurricanes advanced to their final after winning all 4 games on the ice in round 2 of the playoffs. Now it's down to the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres to fight for the chance to compete against Carolina for the conference title. Felix, take us into the playoffs, man. We got the Carolina Hurricanes sweep the Philadelphia Flyers. I think is that 3-2 in OT. With the win, the Canes are now 8-0 in the playoffs. Felix, can the Canes keep this up?
Yeah. And here's the thing about the Hurricanes. They're the first team to win their first 8 playoff games in almost 40 years. And the thing I've said about this playoffs with the Eastern Conference is it was so obvious that Carolina would have a relatively easy path. I've been saying this, it goes back to what I said about how the NHL playoffs were structured. They award teams that lose in overtime with that bonus point.
Mhm.
So even if you lose in overtime, you're granted a point for just making it that far. And you have teams that don't go in that lose more so in overtime, but they have higher win percentages that get plucked out. So a lot of that happened with Eastern Conference. That shifted everything about 2 spots. Then also factor in a lot of these teams did not even qualify in last year's playoffs. So you have teams that either got here off of a technicality or teams that are non-consecutive champion playoff teams this year. Then Carolina, they're the only perennial. And the main reason they've never gone to a conference championship or, won a conference championship last decade, well, really since 2006, but
Mhm.
within the context of the last 5 years, was because Florida was just on another level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in terms of what's going on with the Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens, I think that's going to be that the Canadiens aren't going to go out quietly. We saw how they fought against the Capitals last year, but I think the Sabres are going to end up on top of that one. I think Sabres, they have momentum on their side, and they've just been playing at a different level. The Canadiens, they're a very good team with a lot of heart, but I don't think they're going to overcome the Sabres. I think the Sabres wrap this one up in 6. As for the conference finals, again, you're talking about a team with a lot of skill, a lot of heart going up against a flat out elite team. So I think Carolina goes into the Stanley Cup final. And it's all panning out exactly as I expected because of the aforementioned playoff dynamics of the season.
Okay. What about Minnesota Wild? Well, they're going to try to tie the second round series against Colorado Avalanche tonight. Is this a possibility or just a wild wish?
I don't think it's going to happen. Now, it is a possibility because here's the thing with the Minnesota Wild. They've been a proficient team for longer than people realize. Their goalie was one of the top goalies in the NHL last year, up there with Connor Hellebuck, whose name might be familiar. He was the Olympic hero for Team USA, Connor Hellebuck, who ironically plays for Canada's Winnipeg Jets, and also Logan Thompson of the Washington Capitals, who ironically plays for Team Canada. So that aside, Minnesota's always been known for their well, not always been, but their hallmark has been tough goalie play, tough defense. But the thing is, this year, you talked about that game last week where it was a high scoring affair. Minnesota scored 6 points. Here's the problem: you're going up against Colorado; they had 9. So I think in this case, the problem is Colorado. They have an elite goalie of their own, and Colorado's goalie was the number one goalie in the NHL for this season, the current season.
Mhm.
So you have the number one goalie, you have a solid defenseman in Cale Makar is your starter. So you don't necessarily. Sometimes the puck doesn't even get that far. Then of course you have Nathan McKinnon, who's been a scoring champion a lot of the last 5 years. So not only that, but you also have roster depth. That's something that announcers, particularly PK Subban, have been talking about with Colorado. So again, Minnesota could probably put up a good fight, win another one. I don't see them beating Colorado. As for the Anaheim Ducks Vegas Golden Knights series, again, these are 2 teams that people weren't sure were going to make the playoffs. Ironically, both teams have a former Washington Capital. The Anaheim Ducks, John Carlson, Vegas Golden Knights with Nick Dowd, who I actually got a chance to speak to earlier this year. So I would say in that series, again, I just have Vegas winning that one. Anaheim, I was surprised they were able to get by the Oilers, but again, the Oilers, they've been wavering this season, and Anaheim took advantage. But overall, I would say for that series, again, Anaheim's putting up a fight. They're much better than anyone thought they'd be heading into the season, but I'm definitely going with Vegas in that one.
Felix, you are the man. You landed that plane, man. Troy, he brought that in. He brought it home, didn't he, Troy?
That's a professional, man.
That dude is impressive. Impressive, Skywalker. Hey, man, thanks again, Felix, Troy, for you guys are always excellent and on-spot commentary. No trivia, no polls for this week. Uh, yeah, so hey, gang, that's our show for tonight. We got some playoff. We got playoff basketball. We got playoff hockey. What are you guys doing watching Tom the Bomb? There's playoff games on now. Hey, gang, that's our show. Our Grace Devotionals have moved to Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss that. It's so good. It's so good. As usual, like I said, Felix and Troy, you guys were excellent. I appreciate you guys, man. God bless you all. Everything that you put your hands to will prosper. Listen, don't forget to like and subscribe us on YouTube and hit that like bell if you're enjoying the content. And do me a favor, just engage, say hello. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, KJ. If you'd like to bless our ministry, you can sow into the Tom the Bomb Sports Talk by cash apping us at $Tom the Bomb Sports Talk. Again, that's $Tom the Bomb Sports Talk. And don't forget to check out our website at www.tomthebombsports.com. You can also email us at info@tomthebombsports.com. That's info@tomthebombsports.com. Hey, gang, for a dynamic, and I mean dynamic, in-depth sports analysis, you just heard him, and highlights for sports in the DMV and more, check out the Washington Sports Den on Saturdays on WBGR with my main man, Mr. Felix Bassey. His future's so bright, gotta wear shades. Man, time flies when you're having fun. We're out of time here, but we sure do thank you for spending your time with us. We don't take that for granted. Listen, may the gates of heaven open and pour out an abundance of blessings down on you, that there won't be room enough to contain it all. As you live off the overflow, as you step boldly into the realm of grace. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Listen, remember, if you want it, you got to confess it with your mouth and believe it in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose on the third day, not necessarily a Thursday, just for you. And if you believe that, you will be saved. It's that simple. This is the team that you got to get on. You got to get on this team. Tom the Bomb wants to leave you with a thought. Duct tape may patch a lot of things, but 3 nails fixed everything. Okay. Remember, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. God bless you. We'll see you guys next week at this same bat time on this same bat channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Pacific. I always get that West Coast, I have family out there too, and I'm dissing them like that. Look, have a good evening. Enjoy the NBA playoffs, and the NFL, the NBA. God bless you guys. Have a good weekend. Felix and Troy, thanks a lot, man. Have a good night. Tom the Bomb, Felix and Troy, and Dr. Lauren. We out of here.
This is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine. Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine.
Well, I'm coming out with a word in my mouth, filled with excitement to say what it's all about. For a long time, I've held this water in, let the floodgates open, let the miracles begin. I've prayed, and I've gone back 7 times, look again, cause the miracles are mine, stir the water. I'm about to step in like the pool of Bethesda, let the healing begin.
Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine. Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine.
It took a minute to get my composure right. For years the seems like I've been fighting for my life. Confusing times when my days resemble nights. But now this eagle is about to take flight and soar out of darkness to his revelation light. Though the waves are rough, I step out my comfort zone to walk on water, cause I know I'm not alone. God's got my back and reminds me I'm his own. His words are sweet in my mouth, they taste like a honeycomb. And faith has opened up my eyes. I've been through the fire, tested and tried. As I study God's word, I finally realize that my purpose I have to visualize, to bring the unseen from the realm of under night until I walk into the fullness of a purpose-filled life. Cause I'm light. Yes, I am light, and I shine bright. I am an investment of the Lord Jesus Christ. Not only am I light, I am salt. When I enter in, I add flavor to it all. I bring truth, there's no dispute. Jesus is the vine, and in him I take root. I am the head, and not the tail. I'm an overcomer made free to prevail. A new design, a special kind. Ambassador followed by wonders and signs. I am light, and I give sight, leading lost souls to a glorious light. I am light.